All right, here today with a recorded video lecture. This is going to be on the Python data stack. So this is optional enrichment content, but this is, I believe, of great benefit to the modern data scientist. I would say probably in the strong last 3 years, there's been strong herding um, towards Python, and there's strong educational reasons to use R as well. Um, Data 505 being a good opportunity to see Python without having to use it. What I have up here on the screen in front of us, this is a virtual machine provided by Microsoft, and I'm going to go through how I would set up a Windows device to be able to do machine learning in Python, and that's going to consist of a few steps. I'm going to begin, because this is my preference for how to do things, um, by taking notes. And I'm going to do that initially just in Notepad, and then I will move it over into progressively more mature ways of keeping track of notes over time. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to install Python and step through that process. I know actually getting a local install of something like a programming language work is non-trivial. So we're going to go through it, we're going to test it. I think I know what I'm going to do, but if I encounter problems, I'm going to fix them and I'm going to talk about them. Then I'm going to install VS Code. So if you are accustomed to an R background for machine learning or something like that, it is quite likely use RStudio. RStudio is a very sophisticated piece of modern software, but like VS Code, both of these things are essential text editors that also have a browser inside of them. And the browser hosts, for example, our Markdown code. VS Code is the same, it just works with more languages. It is, of course, in fact, possible to run Python inside RStudio through Reticulate, and there's a time and place for that. I think there's strong benefits to having your own separate Python install. There's performance benefits. There's access to other features that are not present in Reticulate. So we're going to install VS Code. Now, Python and VS Code work together well, but not so well necessarily as R and RStudio. R is for RStudio and vice versa. So we're also going to install something called Jupyter. Jupyter is sort of the Python version of Knitter. It allows you to work with these things called Jupyter notebooks or Python notebooks, right, that are very close to R Markdown files. And it is commonly used as part of the Python data stack. It is not necessary. It is a convenience, and it's really, really nice for the types of things we're doing in this class. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to install Quarto. Quarto is a new, quite recent, last 6 months, I would say, development that comes from Posit, who are the people that made RStudio. As Python and to a lesser degree Julia have come really strongly into the data science space, it's been of more and more benefit to a company like Posit, formerly RStudio, to support other languages. And so Quarto is the RStudio people supporting Python the same way they support R. It's a very exciting project. It has strongly influenced my ability to actually use Python at all in this course. And so we're going to install that and get that working. And then we're going to have some final cleanup. And what is this? Well, once we have Python, VS Code, Jupyter, and Quarto all present on our device, we're going to want to make them work together and get us something that I think is a Python experience that is similarly nice and approachable to using RStudio, but has the benefits of probably the most powerful programming language of all time, probably the most powerful programming language for the next couple decades at least, which is just a good thing to know how to do. So, in order to do this, I am going to install some software. Since this is provided by Microsoft, I have Edge here as my default browser. I personally use Firefox. You can use whatever you want. Microsoft gave me this and it has Edge on it, so I'm going to use Edge. To me, the place that makes the most sense to start actually is not necessarily just with Python directly, but I'm going to want to use Python or VS Code. I'm going to click on this. And this is an explainer of how to get Python set up to work with Visual Studio Code, which is the Microsoft coding environment. There's a lot of exciting things going on here, right? I'm just going to begin with a Python tutorial. And so in order to do this, I'm going to get a description of a variety of ways to get a Python interpreter. So we're actually going to change, see, I don't want to click out of that. Let's actually save what we're doing here. Google Python or VS Code. Go to here. Click Python tutorial. Okay. Now that I'm on this page, I am going to need what? First, set up your Python development environment. I need Python 3, and I need VS Code. So, and that's in fact why Python is here and VS Code is second, because that's the order VS Code says. I was going to start with VS Code. So, we are going to install Python from python.org. Click Install Python from python.org. On this page, I am going to download Python 3.13.1. Search engine, python.org. Okay, I've downloaded it. It's downloaded for AMD 64, which is the type of device I am running. I'm going to check both of these boxes. So what did I do? I clicked download Python 3. Does not matter what version it is if it starts with a 3. Open the installer from downloads. Check both boxes. When the setup prompt comes up. I sure hope that the audio is not too miserable with my keyboard. I'm clickety-clacking away here. But I do love the clicky-clackies. Okay, use admin privileges, python.exe. I'm going to install now. This shouldn't take too long. I'm accustomed to Python being a relatively quick install. I don't know what a slow install would be. You know, I don't really have a sense for that. As this installs, let's go ahead and look back at our tutorial. Well, none of this looks too bad. There's perhaps some additional material we could read here. We are not on Mac OS, though if you are, you would follow the same instructions, and if you're on Linux, you would follow the same instructions. There is a note here that many people that use Python data science use a distribution called Anaconda. My impression is that Anaconda is falling out of favor over time. I have been wrong before. Okay, we're also going to need to install VS Code. I am going to disable my path length limit. I don't know why I wouldn't do that. So I'm going to, after the install, select disable path length limit. Okay. I'm going to test Python real quick. And the way I'm going to test it is I'm going to type the Windows key. I'm going to type term. And that is the same as if I use the search key in terminal on macOS. And if you are on Linux, I'm assuming you know how to get access to the command line. I am here at the Windows PowerShell. This is a highly regarded terminal. It is probably the most popular terminal on Windows. There are others, for example, Command, perhaps less popular. And I'm going to type Python. And this gives me access to the Python interpreter, and I can do things like print hello world. This is not how we're necessarily going to work with Python that often, but I wanted to show it to you so you could be aware of it and see that you have Python on your system. There you have it. You can also just get directly to that interpreter by typing Python, and you can do a little bit of mathematics if you would like. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that Python window. And the way we did that is Windows key, type terminal. In terminal, type Python. This is lowercase. In Python, type print hello world. Okay. We will save you someday. All right, we are now going to install VS Code. I'm going to open this link in a new tab because that is my preferred way to do things. I'm going to download for Windows. One of the benefits I should note, aside, it is of great benefit to us as learners that VS Code includes Copilot LLM integration. We can debate the comparative merits to using Copilot or any other LLM, right? I've been using it. It seems to work well enough, right? So I'm not going to overthink the usage of it. Go to. These should be hyperlinked, huh? Trying to remember how to use markdown hyperlinks, which is like not something I do that often. I also don't use a text editor very often. Okay. So here we are. We are at code.visualstudio.com. We're going to download for Windows. Did I already click that link? Probably not. All right. We're downloading VS Code. There is so much here to help you. I think that the amount of help you can get on VS Code can be quite dizzying. It is not heavy duty by the standards of software engineering, but it is heavy duty by the standards of text editors. It is an editor that will grow with you as you develop as a scientist. And it is probably, let's see, I'm going to cancel one of these. Okay, I'll use the default installation here. I went to a talk pretty recently at an educational forum, and there was some discussion over where people should begin their coding journey, right? And the two competing alternatives right now are basically Google's Colaboratory and Microsoft's VS Code. Microsoft wants things to be used locally on your Windows device. Google wants you to use things in your Chrome browser, right? I was very persuaded by the VS Code people. I think they made a lot of good points. I could just as easily teach this class in Colab. One of the strong benefits that has really won me over to VS Code is actually this Quarto integration that's quite recent, and that's pushed me very strongly towards VS Code. Just 4 months ago, I was teaching a class in Colaboratory instead. So there's not bad ways to do this, and I think that Posit Cloud is this thing that is very R-specific in the mix, where RStudio is a VS Code analog, and then Posit Cloud is a Colaboratory analog. So in the future, we do not know exactly what data science will look like. I think it is going to look a lot like what I'm showing you today. I've been wrong before, and I think there are other excellent technologies out there. I should have been downloading this while I was talking. Let's see. I am going to check all of these boxes. you do not have to check all of them on your device. You do not have to know what those boxes mean to check them, right? If you get stuck and something breaks, you can ask for help, and you can ask for help from me. You can ask for help from Stack Overflow, and you can ask for help from an LLM. And one of the benefits of working with something like VS Code is that the people that own the most powerful LLM in the world also want you to be able to use VS Code. I'm going to launch this when I'm done, and I'm going to say, I skipped some buttons. Click download for Windows. And I clicked, and I opened the installer, which is what I set up here, right? Open the installer from downloads. Check all 4 boxes when the setup prompt comes up. After the install, select Open VS Code. Launch VS Code. It's launch, not open. Okay. Launch Visual Studio Code. Okay. Launch Visual Studio. Oh, it's thinking in the background. My keyboard's getting slow. Code. All right. If I click this button, what's it going to do? I'm not going to sign in, so good luck to you. Choose my theme. I'm going to use a dark high contrast theme. I'm going to get rich support for all languages. Okay. We're going to call this VS Code Setup. Use Copilot or don't. Choose your theme. I actually have VS Code open on my host computer right now, and it doesn't have this theme on it, and I think I'm going to change to this theme. I quite like it. I'm going to select Browse Language Extensions, and I'm going to stop accidentally hitting Control S. I'm going to use Python and Jupyter. Install Jupyter. You should know that if you want to use there we go. If you want to use R in VS Code, there is a rich ecosystem to do that as well. I guess I don't know exactly where it is. Let's take a look real quick. Use R in VS Code. Once I'm here, I can start doing sort of the Python data stack stuff. I am not going to actually work with Jupyter Notebooks. I just installed Jupyter because I'm planning to use it with Quarto Markdown. And so I'm not actually going to go through any of these processes here, and I don't think you necessarily have to unless you want to. And you can go through the same process with R if you would like, right? I think R in VS Code is a joy to work with. Apparently, you need the language server. I've been using R in VS Code for months. It's been uncomplicated for me. Select Python under language extensions. Select Jupyter. Optionally, look into R in Visual Studio Code. I've had a really hard time personally using RStudio because I have Visual Studio Code installed and configured, and I like it a lot because I've been using it. Um, and to me, it constantly feels like RStudio is missing things I would like, right? You will probably feel the same way about Visual Studio if you come over from RStudio, right? The reason to recommend Visual Studio Code at this point is there is stuff that the Python language does very well that is very hard to do in RStudio Code. So one of the specific things Visual Studio Code does that RStudio does not do, you will be interacting with in 10 weeks, right? Um, and so it makes sense to skill up and learn a new thing and get into that sort of at this point in your data science career, is my understanding. Okay, so we have a Python walkthrough. I will leave this open in case we come back to it. Let's tune my settings. I don't think I care about any of these things, but we can look at them. Yawn. Okay, I lost interest in that very quickly. Very good. Unlock productivity. Open command palette. There's a bunch of stuff up here. And then you can watch video tutorials. You're doing that now. So do that if you wish. They have a very popular YouTube section. Click through the remaining options. When I first downloaded Visual Studio 2, I did browse popular extensions. This is Python. This is Jupyter. Those are the ones we're using. They're awesome. You already have that. The built-in terminal is extremely useful. And it is extremely useful in the same way we used the other terminal. I can run Python right here. Or perhaps I can't, can I? I will have to configure my Python for Visual Studio Code. Close that. Code with extensions, install Git, customize your shortcuts. I think we're done for now. We'll go ahead and close this. I think it's time to create Python, so we'll open a project folder. You can put things wherever you want. I put everything under documents, and then I make a new folder for the class. Start a Python project. Create a new folder, likely documents / last name, which is data 505. This is okay. Select folder. Beautiful. I do trust the authors. I am the authors. I'm going to create a Python file. I'm going to create a Python file. This is getting a little cramped, so I'm going to do a trick now. I'm going to take this markdown document, and I'm going to make a new document. I'm going to copy paste in the markdown. I'm going to save the markdown. I'm going to save it as, for now, we're just going to call it PyML. It is auto-detected as markdown. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to close this window. I'm going to go up to full screen, and from there, I'm now going to create a Python file. I'm going to call this hello.py. I'm going to print hello world, and I am going to save the file. I am in data 505, and this is going to be called hello.py. My understanding is if I click this button, it is likely to run. This is slower than I expected, but there it is, and from there, in fact, you can use Python. select or create a Python environment. I'm going to select the Python interpreter. I'm going to use the interpreter I installed. I'm going to update my notes. Create a file, hello.py. What did I put in my file? Run this using whatever that is. Click the I don't know how you draw that button to run the file, which should print out to the console, to the terminal, and it should print out hello world. Return to the Python keep this window open. I'm still working through the Python window, so I should note that. Keep this window open. Python tutorial. An extension setup. Create a new Python project. I have to renumber everything. 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn to the Python. I'm doing many things with my brain. Turn to the Python tutorial. Select, let's see, click, create environment. How do you spell environment? It's literally right there across the screen. I can't see it because I'm typing. Okay. Create environment. Oh no, I click select Python interpreter. Python, is that capital or lowercase? Yeah, capital interpreter. And then we select, these are subpoints. Select the version of Python you installed earlier, which I've done. I'm going to run and debug your Python file. I've already done that. And then I'm going to keep exploring, mark done. Done, boom, cool. All right, so I have installed VS Code and installed Python. I can do theoretically probably much more interesting things in here. Let's put these in the same tab. Let's put that over on the side of our screen. And then let's look at an example of something interesting we can do. I think they are running Hello World the same as we are. And I think that's good enough for now. Okay, so let's look back at our responsibilities. I need to install Jupyter, which I have not done yet, and I also need to install Quarto. Once again, I'm going to go in sort of a reverse order here. I feel pretty good about my Python VS Code setup. This is the Python VS Code setup I use in other classes that just teach Python, that don't teach machine learning. And, you know, I'm happy enough with that. I want to do the same level of setup with Quarto, right? I want to turn VS Code for Python into RStudio for R. And I'm going to do that with Quarto VS Code. And I'm going to, in a search engine, ooh, that's supposed to say, that said Bing. Search, I said Quarto VS Code. I think I should just look up Quarto, actually. Let's do this. We will change the order of things a little bit. Formatting is hard, I think. Quarto. Go to. I get it? Okay. Go to. I'm going to click Get Started. You'll see here, Quarto is defaulting to Python as well. These are Posit. These are the RStudio Cloud people. Let's get started. Click Get Started. You can use this with RStudio. You can also use this thing with Jupyter Notebooks. I have a strong preference to use things like Vim. No matter here, I'm going to use the Quarto Microsoft Installer, MSI. And that is select the installer, and I am on Windows, select and I'm guessing these versions will be changing. I'm going to wait, why can't I just click that button? The same thing. Oh yeah, it's identical. So we're going to click download Quarto CLI. CLI is command line interface. We are going to be using this through the command line. But we're not going to feel like we're using it through the command line because we're going to set it up with VS Code. These things look like they're done installing to me. I'm going to close this. So let's go ahead and open one. And we will go to the next page over here. If Quarto Setup Wizard, you can do either one. I'm going to install for all our users because I have a lot of users. Run the installer. And then I'm going to say all default options are fine. While this is installing, I'm also going to install the Quarto VS Code extension. I'm going to click this over here in my browser. VS Code is open on the other side of my screen. I'm going to click install. I'm going to say this is called install Quarto. Install the VS Code extension. Go to displays. Click the install button. Install. Yeah, I think that's uncomplicated. I'm going to select all defaults. Allow the installation in VS Code and your browser. Okay. Quarto extension, install. This provides language support for QMD files. Very cool. How's that command line interface doing? Yes, you are allowed. I'm going to go back to the Quarto Get Start Guide. I don't think there's too much too exciting in here, but we are going to have to install Jupyter, basically. Jupyter is going to let us do Quarto Markdown stuff, and these other two are going to let us display graphs. Finish. Okay. We're going to have to set up Python for Quarto. And that is this thing. Install Jupyter. Okay. To work, what are we going to say? To work with .qmd files, Python needs a package akin to our language server. Go to run the following terminal command. We'll note that my terminal is still open here. I'm going to close it. So in case you closed your terminal, we can come up here and we can get a new terminal at any time. If you lost your terminal, is there a Control-Shift? Create a new one from the menu. You can also do this inside the Windows command line or wherever you want. All of the terminals are hooked up to the same thing. And I can prove that to you. We can use the ls command to see what is in these folders. See the same thing as there. I can touch a file over here. That is oddly slow. That's okay. Ooh, maybe I can't touch. Bad example. Nevertheless, we have pyml and hello.py in both places. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this command and I'm going to run it over here. I'm actually not sure if just py will work, but we're about to find out. This is a terminal command. I don't know if I can write terminal. I'm going to write it and see what happens. Terminal. This will take a moment. I think this is the slow part. Jupyter is huge. It's essentially allowing a web browser to serve as the way for you to interface with Python. This is the same thing RStudio does under the hood. It's very sneaky. Web browsers are incredible. Programming languages are incredible. It's nice we get to use all of these new tools. But that means there's a large number of lines of code, and you can see all of them going through here, right? Just looking at some of these, there's one in here I saw, NB convert somewhere. This lets you convert Jupyter Notebook, which is .ipymb, which stands for Interactive Python Notebook files, into HTML and PDF documents. If you happen to want to be able to do that, you need this library. What are some other ones that are interested? I don't know. a lot of things with JSON, right? A lot of things for Python. The NumPy language is part of the Python data stack. Pandoc is a way to create documents using Python. Um, so this will run for some time. And it is cool that it is running for some time, because cool things are happening. I'm going to clean up my tabs while we do this. Do not think that anymore. Think I need that anymore. Think I need that anymore. Probably don't need any of these things anymore. Hello, Quarto. Yeah, we'll keep this open. Oh, here's an example. We'll want to use this. I will actually create this file right now. They want me to create something called hello QMD. Okay. I'm going to make a new file. Control N. I'm going to drop this in. Oh, look at the syntax highlighting comes in immediately. I am going to save this as hello.qmd. Going to press save. And now, ooh, we're partway through installing. When this finishes installing, if I click this button, I will get a preview of this and it will be able to run the code and so on. I'm inclined to let the download complete. Am I? How far along is it? Installing collected packages. These things all seem extremely nice. Not sure I actually need them to run everything. Well, have I installed any of the packages yet? It's unclear. I'm going to press this button and see what happens. I want to know. I'm nervous. I don't want to ruin everything. Quarto not found. Okay, whatever. I think it's still working. Or did I even install Quarto? I'm opening the terminal. I'm going to type Quarto and see if it's there. Okay. I do have Quarto. Okay. I just need to make sure it's hooked up to VS Code, and I think it's just still working. Wonder how many minutes this will take. I have a timer running, but I didn't see when I started. I'm confident everything will work here. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention. I find this mini map annoying. I don't remember how to get rid of it, but I bet it's here somewhere. Let's see. Appearance. Mini map. Cool. Gone. Everything's configurable. Let's see. This has a run cell option. I'm going to see if I can run the cell successfully. Okay, so what's going on here? Let me see over here. We're connected to a kernel. This is the IPython kernel. That's Jupyter. Yes, allow. What's happening here? Oh, perhaps I need that. Is I think similar to what happens in RStudio code. I have some Python code. It's inside something called Python, right? I've specified, I have some title, I have some format. I'm using the the Jupyter Python engine. Um, when I click Run Cell, this thing over here opens and begins to run the Python code I have, and this is taking a while to install as well. If I actually need to install that. Oh, is it working? .qmd. Ah, it's thinking. Incredible. And we don't have the package module named matplotlib because we're currently trying to install it in this other window. If we go way back up to the beginning here. Oh, it's gone. But installing matplotlib was one of the first things we tried to do. I'm going to do Control-C to exit this. Okay, that's fine. And then I'm going to try and restart it. See what happens. You see we're getting matplotlib right there, right up at the beginning. So what did we have to do? Following the Quarto tutorial, make hello.qmd, run, let's see, select, click run cell in hello.qmd. When prompted, install the IPy kernel. Okay. Is this done? Oh, it's so slow. It definitely got tired and stuck last time, right? Like this is... I should have stopped it sooner. Okay. Let's try and run again. We might have matplotlib by now. We're importing numerical Python, which is what NumPy stands for, as NP. Everyone always calls it MP, and that's cool. We import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT for plot. And there we have made our IPython notebook. I'm going to close the terminal. And I'm going to try and Quarto render this. Install Quarto. Okay. I need to get Quarto to interface with this, and I'm going to close and restart VS Code to do that, because I think that is the most likely thing to work. So let's go ahead and close this. Let's open VS Code. Oh, I got PowerShell by accident. VS Code. I always forget it's called Visual Studio Code. Everyone calls it VS Code. Surely it will work this time. Did I click that? I think the default is Control-Shift-K. I'm going to try that, Control-Shift-K. I get a lot of these in general. Windows Subsystem for Linux is included by default on the free VM I got. So I'm getting a prompt to use it. All right, we're getting a Quarto preview. This is quite slow. I don't think it will be this slow on your device. This device feels quite sluggish to me inside many layers of virtual machines and so on. So I hope you have a nice experience working with that. You even saw the text was printing out slowly there. Oh, I should close the browser. That's probably consuming energy. I also have like 4 virtual machines open on my host device because I like using virtual machines. It's starting. Oh, I really want it to work. I think it will. Did I do it twice? Um, when it pops up, I'll start describing what we're going to see. Right, so different cells are going to be rendered. Ta-da! Um, and as different cells are rendered, um, this is essentially going to take this Quarto Markdown document, create a new Markdown document, and then compile that into an HTML document. The HTML document is going to be opened up inside VS Code as something that looks a lot like a website. And to convince you that this is just a web browser, I can click this button here and open it in a web browser. And I can do all of the things I would usually do in a web browser, like whatever that button is. I can ask Copilot about it. I can open the image in the new tab. I can save the image as image.png. Probably not to my OneDrive, probably to downloads. And this is all extremely cool. I am going to take my pyml.qmd document and I'm going to turn that into a Quarto Markdown document documenting this process, and I'm going to get that working. So, pyml.qmd, cleanup. I restarted VS Code. Okay. Install Jupyter. Okay. To test whether the process worked, open hello.qmd in VS Code. Quarto render hello.qmd either by pressing or by using Control, and it could be Command on Mac, Shift K. After a moment, I think like pretty stylish, a notebook. We call it a notebook? Let's see, a document will be rendered. Okay. On this cell, I'm going to include that. Okay. Prefix the .markdown document with a QMD header. This is the QMD header. I don't know if that's going to work. It is going to be called Python. What should I call it? Python VS Code Quarto. That all looks good to me. Render the document. Okay. I think I can't run this cell as Python because it's not actually a Quarto document, but I can sure preview it. I'm going to move the terminal back to the bottom. Oh, Copilot's here. Okay. I'm going to hide you because I don't have you enabled. Yes, hide. Okay. It's actually previewing. Unlike Control Shift K. It's quite slow. Oh, it's working. You must use the QMD documents with executable code. No problem. I think I can rename this somehow. I don't actually know how. We will call this Quarto .qmd. That seems fine. There's some files made by the hello rendering. Okay. Now I'm going to render this again. Oh, I guess it's previewing, it's not rendering. And there it is. And I will be able to post this on the website. And the difference is when I post it, I will include a YouTube link at the beginning. One other thing I want to do, I am quite fond of. I didn't actually include the header. It's pretty interesting to infer to that. Okay, I'm going to use a theme. I think this works. By the way, codefold true, like the codefold thing in Quarto is so complicated. I have no idea what any of the words mean. I just read the documentation every time I get stuck, and I always get it to work. Let's use theme darkly. Is that actually a theme? Presumably we'll get an error if it's not. Nice. Bit easier on the eyes for me. There you have it. That's how you make a Quarto. This is just a preview. The way I have a preference to do this, and I will show you. I open my file system. I was working in documents. I was working in data fo5. I was working in this directory, and usually I actually make a directory for every week. I'm only doing 1 week worth of work here. I open the terminal. And then I'm going to Quarto render this thing called quarto.qmd. And that will create existing connection was forcibly closed by the host. Probably need to close this, I guess. I'm gonna close VS Code completely. What am I doing? There's a variety of options to not have to rerun the Python every time. You can deal with them if you're interested or not. And here is the HTML document. We'll just do just once. There it is. I think last thing. Yeah, I think I will stop there for now. Oh, I should have turned this into executable code. That would be more fun. I am gonna. Ah, that's fine. Okay. Oh, that's what codefold does. I'm calling it there. We will loop back to do more on the Python data stack a bit later. I wanted to make a tutorial on setting it up. I think that this is a useful investment of 60 minutes, and I hope you agree. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy using Python, Quarto, and